In our last episode, we spoke to Emily Hanford, who I know you've worked with, was in the movie, and how we arrived here and ended the conversation with her was, so what's next? You mentioned about going to Congress, and I'm excited to hear that. But how do we make sure that A, it doesn't become politicized, but more so, how do we make sure that schools and districts start to understand science of reading is not just a hashtag, it's evidence of what works, but how do we help schools and districts understand what comes next? What do you think is the most important thing now that this awareness is getting out about the evidence, the awareness is getting out about the approaches that work across the board, but what do we do?
So there are three things that I'd like to mention to answer that question in terms of what's next. First of all, probably the most uncomfortable is that we have to start playing home games instead of away games. What I mean by that is everyone, our society is developed this habit where we like to criticize the other side. We love to point fingers at them over there, that group, that party, that team, that school, that parent, whatever. We're a finger pointing group. And so the first thing is we have to change from that to a home team thing. We have to be willing to engage our own groups about the science of reading, about the importance of literacy, about making this a priority and move it away from the political realm. So that means I need white women to talk to white women. I need Asian women to talk to Asian women. We need the NAACP to talk to the NAACP. I need to talk to my folks. Kareem, why would you say that? Because those are some of the most difficult conversations. First of all, no one can change your mind more so than someone who you love and that you identify with. We have to be willing to have robust conversations with the people that we love because we have the greatest access to them. And we know how to reach them when others probably don't. So, I said the most powerful conversations take place at the Thanksgiving table. And we have to be courageous enough. And it's very trendy today to cancel people. So I'm not even going to talk to Uncle John because Uncle John's a this. And he, I don't talk to him. He makes me feel that. Okay, guess what? You may think he's a hater and this and that, but who do you think Uncle John's going to listen to more than you? It's you. You're the one.
Right.
So we have to pull up our pants and talk to our own folks and engage them about the importance of literacy, where they stand, how this impacts society, and ask them to wait. We just have to get aligned on that. That's an expectation. So I was at a meeting a couple of days ago with an elders group in the African-American community. I just said locally here. And I was on with someone else as a guest, and we had a robust conversation about the role of critical race theory, the importance of social emotional learning, and all these other things that are hot button topics. And I said, I hear you, because I hadn't said much. I said, but I want my kids to be able to read the theory. Rather than sitting here arguing about it, I just want them to be able to read the doggone theory. So can we prioritize that? You want to talk about social emotional learning, but the biggest trauma that's going on is that our kids can't read. And so every day they're being victimized by these rising insecurities.
Right.
This was a family meeting. There was a lot of love, a lot of kente, a lot of melanin in the room. And so here I am talking about something that was not popular necessarily, but by the end, we were able to agree, yeah, you know what, that's important. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for, and it was tough. There's probably a few hurt feelings, but for the most part, we made progress more than some other group would have been if they made a speech or something like that. So that's the first thing we can do. Talk to the home team. Second thing is we have to start elevating people who've come up the rough side of the mountain with literacy. When board members and superintendents struggle to learn to read, or that maybe they have a child who's dyslexic or a parent who's dyslexic or a sibling, they move differently. Mm-hmm. They have a different level of engagement. You have to put people in there who can even perceive the problem because they've seen it and they see how it unfolds in families and individuals' lives. If I'm a board member, if I'm a board president, I want to know who your chief academic officer is when you apply for this superintendent's job. If either you or your chief academic officer does not have some connection to students with learning differences, whether it's through your study or your personal experience in your family or connection, I'm going to ask for, what's behind door number 2. Because you have to make sure that that's front and center of their mindset and their planning. And the third thing is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Next step would be going to the American Federation Teachers website, look up elements of an effective reading program, and see they've already got the 5 elements listed there. They've had them there for over a decade.
Right.
And just ask yourself, what of these 5 things are we doing and which are we not doing? Consider the scorecard. I know we get into the politics about unions, and that's not where I'm just saying AFT has gotten it right for a long time. It's been aligned with the National Reading Panel, both National Reading Panels, the English one and for biliteracy, and research has borne them out to be correct. Just follow it.
Right.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just look to see what they have and see if those elements are present in your program. And if not, act accordingly.
Absolutely. And I think a couple of those, I love the analogy of home team versus away team. I grew up as an athlete, so I love those sports analogies. But you were saying at the conversation, even though there was maybe some controversy, there was a level of trust there that you could work through it more so than if some outside organization had come in. So I love that concept.
And we have to be honest that we need bridge builders. Trust has been frayed. And right now in America, we've got a fever. And to each his own politically, but the fever writ large prevents us from listening very well to folks outside of but we don't get the same sources of information. We don't have the same opportunities to engage. And so we talk at each other, right? It's just, that's what it is. I don't think it's right, but that's just what it is, right? You tell me what channel you watch, I'll tell you your politics. I already know. We can tell, we all can do it. So we got to be able to cut through that and have genuine, authentic conversations. Who are you going to do that with? Who can cut through the noise? Well, guess what? Especially when we're over grandma's house, we're going to have to sit down and talk. And oftentimes the array of differences show up in our families. We have people who are all over the political spectrum. We have people who we may or may not take very seriously. They're the joker, and everybody's got their roles. But the willingness to engage people where they are with a root of love, right? That's the assumption. There's some love in the family so you can have these conversations. It allows you to be more candid. It allows you to have robust debate, sometimes a little bit intense, and still come back to the table. Hopefully. And unfortunately, in other parts of society, we're just not that mature. We're just not that grounded in love to do those kinds of things. It's a sad but unfortunate reality. But we can take advantage of our family structures. And they don't have to be traditional structures. Whatever the family structure is, engage those folks first and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second piece about elevating people with that personal connection. I mean, I think about the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, and his struggles with dyslexia and how that's shaping his educational plan. And like you said, if there is that personal connection, I think about all the parents that started the Decoding Dyslexia groups and how we now have legislation in many, many states that mostly was driven by parents. Mm-hmm. And so thinking about how do we elevate those folks to our school boards, to superintendents, to chief academic officers, I think is really important.